we could get started. It's a little after 6. We'll still be letting some folks in as they join here a little bit late. Um, as Kathy Hilby said, we thank you guys for joining us tonight, for helping your child find success in the virtual environment. So tonight, there'll be a panel of 3 of us presenting this evening. My name is Julie Arntz. I'm one of the high school counselors, and I'm primarily responsible for students with the last names that begin between A through L. That doesn't mean we aren't assisting other students, but if you have any questions for Miss Tripp or I, they primarily are designated that direction.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming tonight. I'm Jessica Tripp, and I'm one of the counselors at the high school, and I primarily work with students M through Z at the high school.
And I'm Kathy Hilby, and I am the technology integrator for the district. And so we're going to be a team to present this to you today.
There we go. One quick thing before I start. If you have questions, just unmute yourself, or you can write a question in the chat, and we'll do our best to answer those as we kind of move along here. All right, so as you can see on your screen, we are going to start this talk out with mental health is health. We all have mental health, we all have brains, and we need to take care of them. And I think it's all become very well apparent right now with everything going on, just how important taking care of our mental health is. And so we just wanted to touch on that as we start talking about supporting your child, just because that bleeds over into everything. So one of the main things that we can do to take care of our own mental health is to do many things with intention. Our mental health is not, and our physical health is not passive. We have to be very active in it. So I've just put up a few things up here that are helpful as far as like taking some self-care. And these are things that you can work with your child with. These are things that, as adults, that we can work on. But one of the first things I have up there is take frequent screen breaks. Our kids and many of us are on our screens for much of the day. And there's so much science out there just about how much that screen time affects our brains and how they function. So just taking many breaks away from those screens and being intentional about it, from our phones, computers, the TV. I have social media there as well. We know there's been a lot of studies out there now where we're seeing a lot of anxiety increasing with teen use with social media. And so just talking to our kids about taking some intentional breaks away from their social media, which is hard because that's how they stay in touch with their peers. But certainly we need breaks from that. So another thing I have up here is being flexible with yourself and others, with your children, with your spouses. This is really tough. And this whole school situation that we're in, I talk to people a lot, have talked to people a lot recently, like us as adults and our children, we've all kind of done school the same our whole lives. We went through similar school type systems. Teachers have learned to teach school in similar ways. And with the flip of a switch, we were asked to learn something completely new. And yeah, we've been at it for a little while now, but I know kids and parents are starting to get into the swing of things a little bit more, but we just really need to be patient with ourselves. There's still a lot of frustrating things with being online. It's just tough sometimes. Here's an obvious one: drink water, remember to eat. I talk to kids a lot. They forget to do these things during the day, and our brains need to be nourished. So just remembering and reminding our kids to do that. Planning family time together, meals, a walk, family games. I know a lot of our families are very busy, so maybe meals every night together aren't an option. Maybe it's a breakfast on Sunday morning, or one day a week you're eating breakfast together, taking a walk, just finding time to spend together, making sure our kids are staying in touch with their social circle. That's very important. Even us introverts, this being disconnected from people, it's taking a toll. And so just making sure that people are reaching out and making connections. And then staying active and getting fresh air. That's, it feels like a no-brainer, but man, my colleague and I sat much of the day today working on our computers, and by the end we were just drained and we didn't even do anything. So like getting up and getting around and just taking a quick walk, getting some fresh air, just can make a big deal of difference. And I just have at the bottom here, like, if you're concerned at all about your child's mental health, you please reach out to one of us school counselors. We are happy to talk through what's going on with your child, and we can just look at options and resources. So with that, we're going to lead into communication.
Okay, and communication goes along with the self-care that Jessica Tripp was talking about, sticking with like social circles and really communicating like within your family. Some little bubbles here, quick questions are: what's new? Tell me more about something. Let's talk. So Ms. Tripp and I really believe that communication is key during this time. Just when you think your teens want independence and privacy, we hear all the time that I just wish my parents would ask how I'm doing. It's interesting how sometimes we're setting limits on our kids and they come in and say, gosh, I wish we just had rules and things at our home. So just when you think your kids are wanting to be alone and find their way themselves, they really need you guys and their social circles. So one of our things about communicating with teens is like checking in. It can be just quick, they walk in the door, how you doing? As Jess mentioned, like all day on screen time is super draining. I don't believe like they'll be ready for a long conversation after a day like that. A lot of times teens, and you'll laugh, my kids are out of high school now, but I know they'd answer with one word answers a lot. So if we ask like, how was your day? Good. Do you have any homework? No. You just get those short answers. And so we really have learned, in our counseling fields, if you elicit more information with open-ended questions. So it's like, tell me about your day. And like, I want to learn more about what happened, in your classes, and really ask those open-ended ones if you're looking for how they're really doing. One of the other important things is like listening when they're talking. A lot of times the students will say, I don't think they even heard me. They're busy with their own jobs and work and stress. And really, if they're talking to you, gosh, they really are hope you're listening. And you can let them know you're doing that by like rephrasing what they said, and like have patience, and silence is sometimes the best communication. If you happen to be in a serious conversation, sometimes just saying nothing at the moment is the best time for all the processing for them to go on. So, and our other thing with communicating with teens is like, you might not think they want to hang out, but they kind of do. So we recommend to kids when they're having struggles with their families, and during this time now when there's not a whole lot, like Jess mentioned about playing family games, a lot of communication can come with that, just with situations that happen when you're hanging out. So we really like family movie nights, that can help with communicating. And I kind of went over this, like when's the best time to talk. We just feel like give them a little break at the end of a school day and maybe check in with them a little bit later. And it's really hard to judge how long they're willing to have us in their bedrooms typically, because that's their space. And so you can kind of judge that by the responses you're getting. But we feel like teens, 30 minutes is probably a long time. So I'd say check in with your kids frequently, especially when we were talking about their mental health, and just keep an eye on if you think you've seen like changes happen with how they're responding, or what their habits are like. And We just think that's really important. And so then I say, like, what's next? So we say follow up. Like, after you're having a conversation, like, follow up with that. That validates like their feelings and what they're talking about, and that they know you were listening. So we really think communication is important during this time. And it can come personally, it can come with little text messages. They kind of like that if people check in quick like that. And yeah, if you need any help with any of those ideas, Miss Tripp and I are open to talking about everything.
All right, so now we'll talk a little bit about supporting kind of the school and specifically with your child. So one of the first things is providing structure. I think from the time our kids were little itty bitty and we were having like nap times during the day, we eat around a similar time, maybe there's story time, things like that. Like our brains really thrive on structure. It's, I think, part of that safety piece, like our brains like to know what's coming next. And so just working really hard to have a structure of to our day. And so that's what I think is kids are feeling the loss of right now. I've talked to a lot of students about that, and it's just that's really hard. They're not having that constant bell schedule to kind of go by. Um, so it doesn't mean they have to have everything planned down to the very minute, but just having a general kind of flow to their day, I think, is very helpful. So the more that you can help your child set that up, I think it's can like have really great dividends for them. So some of the basic things is wake up at a similar time every school day. So that means, you know, if you're typically waking up 7:30 on your morning Zoom days, maybe on your afternoon Zoom days, you wake up somewhere around 7:30 to 8:30. It doesn't have to be the exact same time, but just waking up within an hour of the same time every day. And just kind of getting dressed or ready for the day. Maybe this isn't for everyone. Maybe your child is fine in their PJs and staying comfy all day. That's totally fine. But we're kind of giving some suggestions. Like if something's not working, here are some things different to try. So I always feel better when I get up and I'm getting ready for the day. Even when we're working from home, it just kind of makes your brain feel a little bit more prepared for the task at hand. Having a designated workspace, if you can make that work within your home, that's really important. Um, a lot of students we've discovered hang out in their beds in Zoom during the day and do their homework there. If that's working for your child, fantastic. But that might be the one thing that needs to be switched. So getting them out of that space, out of their sleeping space, and into a spot that looks and feels like school. So a chair and a desk or a table, anything that just kind of feels more of a structured space. And then just for them to have their materials ready at hand every day. All right, so just a little bit more about structure. Just looking at like when we're in the hybrid learning model, meaning the students are at school for 2 days and then home for 3. Still on those home days, it's really important for students to follow a normal wake up and schedule and routine. We hear all the time students on their home days are sleeping until 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And then by that point, we're kind of like getting into dinner time and like the day has kind of gone away. And so just trying to help your child wake up at a similar time and follow a similar schedule like if they were in school. So I've talked to kids about kind of going through like their hourly schedule. So if they have chemistry first hour, open up their chemistry on Schoology, see what the teacher has planned for them and start working on that. And then, you know, so on and so forth, going through their schedule that way. When we're 100% online learning like we are now, I talk to students about working during their non-Zoom times. So as you can see, Mondays and Wednesdays, students are Zooming all morning until noon. So even when those class times end, so a lot of classes will Zoom anywhere from like 15, 20 to 40, 45 minutes. So if your class gets done Zooming, I suggest to students that they should pull out the homework or work or assignment for that specific class and just keep working as if they were sitting in school. Um, and this, the same for, Tuesdays, Thursdays, getting up in the morning, getting some work done, and then planning to Zoom in the for their afternoon classes. And then we go on to time management and some organization tips. So using things like planners, organizations, lists. We've worked with a lot of students recently, and the list making has been a really fantastic thing for them, whether it's in a notebook, on a whiteboard, and just kind of going into their Schoology account every day and kind of writing down every task or assignment that they need to get done, writing it down, and then just getting that, I don't know how many of you out there are list makers, but just having those lists and getting to mark something off, it's kind of fun. It just kind of makes you feel like you're getting things done. You can have a visual of that. I talk to students too about putting a timer on their phone, maybe setting it for 30 or 40 minutes, depending on how long your attention span is. And so kind of challenging yourself. Okay, I'm going to work on my algebra for 30 minutes. And then they pick up their phone, they see that timer and like, okay, I only have 10 more minutes to go. And so just kind of doing those things for themselves. Recently, my daughter discovered an app called Minimalist, and it's pretty slick. So you open this app and you put in a list of to-do items. She had all of her little assignments in there that she wanted to get done for the day. And then I don't know if you click start or what exactly happens, but a timer starts, and you click the task that you want to work on. And so she starts working on her task. She picks up her phone. If she picks up her phone, it says, set down your phone. And so it's just a reminder, like, put down your phone. You don't need to do that right now. Keep working. So that, I just wanted to share that. I thought that was a pretty fun app and useful. And then taking scheduled breaks. I think kids get in the mindset that they do school and they have to sit down and it's just school, nothing else. Like, our brains need to stop. They need to take breaks and rests. And so making sure that they're maybe planning some of those mini breaks throughout the morning or afternoon, making sure they're stopping to eat lunch, getting up and moving around, that just gets the blood flowing and our brains working a lot better. Okay, and I kind of mentioned this before, but just being realistic about the amount of time that you can focus, but also challenge yourself. So if your child knows and you know that your child just really struggles with focusing, and you've got good 20 minutes in that you can get out of them, set the timer for 20 minutes and get to work, and then reward yourself with a break, and so on and so forth. I have break assignments up into smaller chunks, thinking through like studying for exams or large assignments. Just even on your a student's to-do list, maybe they have algebra questions 1 through 10 to do. Well, they're going to do 1 through 5 first, and they're going to take a break, and maybe they'll work on a different assignment and come back, depending on where their brain's at. So just kind of working through those things. And then celebrating successes, big or small. So maybe you worked longer than you ever had before. Celebrate it. We just need to celebrate all of the successes right now.
Our next slide is about student engagement and parent engagement as well for a few of them. So something we feel is super important is to remind your students in your home to check their emails daily. We have a lot of information goes out in that method, even more so now. So that can be on that to-do list, is like check emails. I have that in my work calendar every day just to remember, check your emails. Another important thing is the attend all Zoom meetings and participate. So encourage your kids to get up, like Ms. Tripp said, log in. I'll tell you, we have some awesome attendance workers around here. So if your child has not been in a class, you've probably gotten a phone call. Even if they've had tech issues, they need to get a hold of us right away so we can get them into class right away, especially when we only have half of the classes each day. So that's super important. And then encourage them to participate. I know that's hard, like having our pictures on the screen, but teachers now are learning some new methods to make our kids more comfortable sharing. They have cool features in Zoom called breakout rooms. And so just please talk to your kids about that and make sure, like, when you have that communication, like, how was school today? Were you in all your Zoom meetings? And we can check Skyward. If you go on Skyward attendance, you can see if they were in their classes all day, because we keep track every single hour. Along with checking emails daily, is check Schoology daily. So this is our new platform this year. There's been a big learning curve for staff here, us, and you families at home. We have our segment after this is with Miss Hilby. She's going to go through some super, super valuable information about Schoology. It's super slick once you get to learn the interface of it, but those things need to be checked daily. We also want to mention for engagement that we want your students to request Zoom meetings with the teachers for help. They all have office hours and are waiting for kids sometimes to set up meetings. They also will request your child to come to a Zoom meeting. So hopefully if they hadn't done that, you would hear about that as well. But those are kind of the face-to-face times that we have now is those meetings. And we highly encourage the kids to email teachers with questions or for help. If they're shy about doing it in class, an email works. There's chats in these Zoom sessions. It's kind of going back to the communication piece. We need to just really have teaching the kids to advocate for themselves. We also want to support you parents here too, that we know in March, April, and May, a lot of families felt responsible for taking on the education for their kids. And our teachers felt horrible that families felt that way. So they are begging us to share with you, please, please, please reach out. They're licensed for this and paid for this and want to do this. So please don't feel like you have to take on the assignments that we have given your kids. So school engagement, super important during this time. I'll be honest, our kids are doing great. Just when we feel we always want to do more. I've talked to my colleagues around the area, and they are not having as much engagement and attendance as we are. We're doing awesome. So thank you guys for everything you've done so far, and we can always do better. So right now we want to offer some time for you. If you have any questions, or if someone would like to share something they've done at home that's worked, we'd be happy to have you unmute yourself and share some tips with people. If not, we can keep moving on. So we'll just wait for a moment.
As Julie mentioned, that we are new to Schoology this fall, and we are happy that we're all on the same platform at the high school. Those of you who have had students in school for a while knew that last year we had a little bit of everything going on, and that made it very difficult. So at this point, it's nice to have the continuity on that. Okay, I'm going to be jumping around a little bit, so I'm going to move from slideshow to the actual Schoology program, so it'll kind of seem like I'm flipping from here to there, so hopefully I'm not going to make you dizzy by doing that. But first of all, you should have received login information for Schoology in an email format, either from myself or Angie Hemker sent out the majority of them. If for some reason you don't have that, or we know how too many emails can come in at once and get misplaced, so by all means you can email me and I will resend that information. I'm happy to do that if you don't have that login information. So with the login, it's going to tell you right in the information that we send out that you're going to go to Schoology.com and you're going to put in the username that we send you. And the username is going to be hopefully very similar or the exact same as what you use in Skyward to log in. And then you'll be given a password, which is one of those crazy, very hard to remember kind of things. But once you get in, you can change your password to what you want it to be. And then to help pick your school, you put in the zip code of 54669, and then you can choose West Salem High School on there, and then it will log you in to Schoology from that perspective. So when you get logged in, it's going to allow you to view Schoology as your student, or if you have multiple children, you can see them all in the same account. You don't need to log in separately for a different child. So I'm going to pop out of here, and I'm going to go into Schoology. So if I had just logged in, which this is what this is showing right now, if I had just logged in as a parent. And so I am viewing this right now as my child, Patty Panther. And I'm going to tell you right up front, these are obviously fake students, and we're doing that to protect privacy. So some of this is going to look a little messy because it's not, they're not real students and real assignments and things like that. But you get the idea of the layout of things. So I can see, from my students' perspective, I can see the recent grades. I can see overdue materials, and then I can see upcoming materials all in this same spot. And this repeats on other screens as well. Now, while I'm in here, if I needed to switch to another child, I could just go up to the upper right-hand corner and use the drop down, and then I could switch to a different student if I needed to do that. The other part of Schoology is this orange bar at the top that tells us the student, their courses, their groups, and their grade report. And so if you click on courses, you're going to see the courses that your child is enrolled in. Now, a little caveat to that, in that all of their classes for the whole school year are in there. So second semester classes are too. And we asked at the beginning of the school year, we asked students to go in and rearrange their courses. And we thought, hey, it'd be really helpful for you if they're in order by first hour, second hour, third hour, and that would be easy to find. Now, some students haven't done that. And I had a parent a couple weeks ago who was doing the organizing of making a whiteboard and going to help their child write down all the assignments. And they couldn't see all of the classes when they went to the drop down. And that's because her son hadn't rearranged them to be able to see the second semester courses were on top instead of on the bottom. And so we just went in and rearranged them. The parents can't rearrange them. The child has to do that. And then she was able to see all of the courses. So just so you're aware of that. The other views up here, and we'll kind of just speak briefly to them, but if you notice, there's courses, groups, and grade report. So if I go into a course, I'm going to pick one of our courses. I'm just going to flip to another tab here. I'm going to pick a geometry class. Now, this one is a real class, and I wanted you to see what a real class looked like as opposed to all those fake ones that were in the other screen. So our teachers are all supposed to have a lesson plan at the top of every course. And obviously this is going to change weekly. Couple of things to note at the top of the lesson plan. They'll have the office hours, which those are the same throughout the building. And then they'll have their Zoom link. So this is one way that students can get to the Zoom links. And then it will tell them on, Monday, what do I need to do? Where do I find this? And just, progresses from there. And then underneath all of this is a link to the past lesson plans. So let's say that your child was maybe sick for a whole week and really, really sick, couldn't get on and do things, and they needed to know what happened last week. They could click on this link and go to the previous week's lesson plans. Now, I'll be real honest with you. I chose a really good one here. They're not all as marvelous as this one. Mr. Fruit does an excellent job of everything is super organized. So he's got each folder by week. And then if we open up those folders, it's got the day. And so this is really easy for students to find things. Now, some teachers, and they have that prerogative, have decided it doesn't work for me to go by week because we might be doing one particular topic for multiple weeks. So they may have a folder for a topic instead. And that's why they put these lesson plans up here that tell them, hey, we're working on this today, go in this folder and find it. And the teachers are kind of spelling that out for them. I'm going to pop into a fake class here. And again, you're viewing this is what your student sees, but you're viewing it as your student, and it still says up here that I'm viewing it as my student. The left-hand side has some links, and the area that the student would be in the most are the materials. This is where all of the items are kept. Now, because this isn't a real course, it doesn't have the lesson plan on the top like the other one does, but this is where the students would actually be completing their work, is in the materials. And then for each course, there is a grades section for that particular course. So if they select that, and it's going to show the grades for that. Again, this isn't a real course, so that's why there's not grades in there, but I'll pop to another one so you can kind of get an idea. Actually, I'll show that in the grade report. But another thing that Schoology has, which is nice, is a place for groups. And so the extracurricular activities, whether it be clubs or sports, they can make their own Schoology area, and then they can use these to communicate with their students as well. So it can be everything from when meetings are going to be and announced and those kinds of things, to they can add pictures into their group. And so those are places where the students can communicate through their groups. And the students can also, they can contact an advisor and get an invitation to these, or there's a variety of ways that they can go in and become a part of these in Schoology. Now, we feel like we're really in the infancy because we just started this in the fall, and there's so much potential with Schoology, but again, we're just getting started on this, and there are actually opportunities where we could have parent groups as well. And so you yourself could be a part of a group in Schoology to communicate and get information, those kinds of things. Now, if I go to the grade report at the top for the student, this is more of a summary of all of the classes versus the grades on the side would be in one particular course. Now, if I open one of these courses up, I'm going to see the grades that are on here. And keep in mind, if it's all, for example, if it's condensed, there may be little drop-down arrows that you can click on to see more information. So you can see percents, and one of the things that is helpful for parents is, did my child turn it in or not? Well, this isn't true for every assignment because it depends on the kind of assignment, but in some cases, this little piece of paper here, so if I were a parent looking at this and I wanted to know if my child got this done, this piece of paper means that it has been submitted and it's waiting for a grade. And then if I pop down to this last one, this one has been submitted and it has a grade. Now, just because I see one without a piece of paper there, it doesn't always mean that it wasn't submitted, especially if we are in a hybrid kind of situation. A teacher may assign something and the student works on it at home, and they may say, when you come to school and the next time you're at school, turn it in, and they physically turn it in, paper and pencil kind of copy, then obviously there wouldn't be a submission here because they turned it in person rather than virtually. So it makes it a little bit difficult on your part if you're trying to figure out if they've turned everything in. But these are obviously these ones that have nothing. That's where you would be asking questions about, hey, I see this, have you turned that in? I do want to think about too, that isn't always about grades. I think we talked about this communication, but getting into this and looking at the materials and seeing, or that lesson plan and seeing what they're studying can help you ask better questions. Hey, I see you're talking about this in social studies. Tell me about that, or what do you think about that? Or it just helps you to ask a better question so that you don't get that oh nothing kind of response that we're used to. So a couple of kind of warnings in here, or things that may come up. Sometimes when you're clicking on things, so for example, I can actually click into this assignment in here as a parent. I can click into this and see this assignment a little bit better. So I can tell that as a parent now, I can see that this was the assignment that Patty had, and she actually turned it in twice. So she did some revisions and turned it in again. So I can see that part of it too. And in some cases, you may even be able to open up a document if they have something listed there. Like for example, this PDF, you could actually open it up and see what that was. In other cases, and I've had some parents frustrated with this, they're asking things like, well, when I click on it, it says it's private access. I can't see it in this little box pops up. And that's because the teacher has assigned something that's a Google assignment, whether it be slides or docs or sheets, and it's designed to go into your child's Google account. and you don't have access to their account, I don't have access to their account. And so in that case, that's why it's private and you wouldn't see it. So that's in a case where you would want to ask your child about it. Hey, can you log in and show me this? And then they can show you what that assignment was. So if you're getting that error message. The other thing with a grade report, if you are checking Skyward for grades and then you're checking Schoology for grades and you see there's a difference, that can happen. We're hoping it's going to get better. At the start of the school year, Schoology had us manually syncing. So what that means is that the teachers would have to press a button and then it would send it to Skyward. Well, now just in the last week, this week actually, live sync was turned on for us. So now as teachers enter assignments into Schoology, they get synced live into Skyward. So it should be more closely matched than it was before, but there can be discrepancies. So by all means, if you notice something and you have a question about it, just a friendly email to the teacher, maybe asking about it. There are a few little glitches. I'll just give an example. A teacher can excuse something in Schoology that they excuse the assignment and then it doesn't count against them. They don't get a 0. But when they sync it, that excuse does not go to Skyward. And so they have to go in and manually do that. So, it's anything with a human, there can be a little mistake there. So if they forgot to excuse it or something, then your gentle reminder can have them go and check that a little bit more closely. Do either of you want to answer, Jess or Julie, the last question on there from Amber? Do you have any thoughts from how often parents should be checking on their students' Schoology and assignments, and how much should we let them alone and personal responsibility, especially now that they're in high school? That is a great question.
Personally, I didn't do it a lot and I work here, so I don't know if I'm the best one to answer. I kind of feel like you did now that they're in high school. We have internal consequences if the kids aren't doing well. I think it's good to take a bird's eye view every now and then. I think there can be too much looking, which can cause a conflict between you and your kids. You've maybe heard the phrase helicopter parents. And so when we talked about kids wanting privacy and learning how to handle things on their own, so there's kind of a balance. That's such a great question. We just finished the quarter Friday, so I think now would be a great time to look. The semester's half over. The new term kind of starts fresh for the second half of the semester, which ends January 15th, I think, somewhere in there. So I don't know. That's such a great question. It just really depends on kids. If they're super organized, you probably wouldn't have to. If they're not making the list, like Miss Tripp talked about, then you might have to help them along the way. But we really do hope that they learn to do this on their own. So that's just a great question.
I would agree that it really depends upon your child, and even those of you who have multiple children, one can be very different than the other one. And one, you can just let them go and things are fine. And another one, you might need to have a little more of a thumb on the situation. And I guess I would just caution that you could be peeking at things and they don't even know. And then you're just kind of keeping an eye. And so you're not doing the nagging or anything like that, but not letting them get too far behind. So, if you're just now kind of checking in and finding out, oh, they failed. Oh, okay. They failed first quarter. That's harder to overcome. And then had you, a couple weeks in, kind of seeing what's going on and adding structure, communication, all those things that we've talked about too. The other thing I wanted to show on here from the parent perspective is actually when you're logged in as the parent. So I'm going to use this little drop down on the right hand side, and I'm going to go to my name on here instead. And as a parent, you have your own view. Now, mine's going to look a little bit different, very different, because I actually, have all my own classes and things like that. But yours will be pretty blank that you have. But if I go up into my view and I choose settings from there. So if I scroll down and I choose settings, okay, this is what should be showing. Unfortunately, it's not showing up on my screen. But if you go into, when you're signed in as a parent and you go into that settings, you'll get these two tabs, unlike the many tabs I have. And one of the things you can do here, sorry, change your notifications. And there are two key notifications on here. One is the parent email digest. And so it says on here, you can receive a weekly or daily email reports of your child's activity. So I saw somebody in the chat was asking, hey, do they have something similar to what Google Classroom had where you can get a daily or a weekly summary? And yes, you can. So you can turn this on in here, and then that's, once it's on, then you can choose whether you want it daily or weekly, and you can actually choose a time as well. So then the other thing that you can turn on, I'm going to tell you this with caution to turn on, is you can get an email when submissions are overdue. So if your son or daughter missed a deadline, then you can get an email. But I caution you because things happen. A teacher may have put a date in and then has decided, oh yeah, we're going to move that back a day. And everybody knows we're going to move it back a day, but it didn't get changed in Schoology right away. So then it'll show up as late and then you'll get an email. And so just be cautious of that. We did ask students at the beginning of the year when we told them where their notifications were because we didn't want them to get too bombarded by emails. And we said, we don't care what your notifications are, except we want you to have this overdue item turned on for you. And students can actually connect their phone as well to receive the notifications, because we know not checking email, even though we just said we should check it daily, doesn't happen real well, but they do check their phone. So having them connect their phone and this might be helpful as well.
Kathy, there's a question here. Is there a weekly or monthly view similar to Google that students can see, for example, that they might have 3 tests in the same day? Part of the struggle with online is being able to flip to multiple screens on a tiny laptop and not be able to see the big picture.
Yes. So if I go to, a good question there. If I go back to my child, they have a calendar up in the corner, and they can go to that calendar and they can see items in the calendar. It's still loading here. Patience. So this is not a good example because, again, I don't have a real student here, but real students would have items across here. One thing I should have mentioned earlier that this is a good reminder here. If you remember right when I started, I said when they log in, the first thing they can see are recently graded, overdue, and upcoming. And some students go right there, or they come to their calendar and they go right to the calendar. And you have to remember that a teacher is, when we're in this virtual environment, the teachers are going to lay out a class work of material. So there might be a video clip that they have to watch and a short reading that they have to do, and then they need to do the assignment. And the assignment is what shows up on the calendar or in the upcoming. And so we have found that some students are going straight to that and then like, well, I don't really know how to do this because you didn't go to the class and open up, read the lesson plan, open it up, and do all of the things that you need to do in order to do the assignment successfully. So just like I tell students when that comes up, when you walk into class, the teacher doesn't just hand you the assignment right away. They talk about it and explain and kind of get you all ready for it. And usually the assignment is at the end after you've got that basic information. Other questions?
I think we covered them all. I'm not sure if anyone wanted to ask a live question by turning off their mic. Otherwise, I think we've hit everything in the. If parents, if you have other app suggestions, if you want to email those to me, to Jessica Tripp, I'd be happy to put together a list and email those out. We're learning every day, and we learn from each other. So if you have ideas and things that work for you, I'd love to hear about them.
Okay, if you don't have other questions, we certainly appreciate the time you took to be here and learn a little bit more. Jess or Julie, anything else you want to add?
No, I'm just so happy. This was fun. So thank you everyone for
It
coming.
was.
Yeah.